The time flies by when you're having fun, so I didn't even notice when, and yet somehow we're in the penultimate episode of this second season of Obscure Those Games already. Oh well, such is life. For now, let's see what's in the video for today. Operation Body Count, or how I like to call it, Poor Man's Die Hard, is a first-person shooter taking place in the Nakatomi Tower. No wait, that's not it. Probably best we start from the beginning. The year is 2012, a far-off future from 1990 for the game released in. I wouldn't say that the world is grim, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows, especially that the man called Victor Balog and his terrorist group have taken control of the UN towers where the leaders of the free world were holding a summit. Never before so many important people have been held hostage at the same time. And since negotiations with the terrorists are out of the question, you being the best member of the elite forces unit are sent to deal with the situation the best way you can. So, turning hundreds of evil dudes into individual puddles of red and pink goo. You're there to effectively compose the villains into natural fertilizer using guns and bullets. You enter the tower through sewers and have 40 levels to go through before you'll be able to save the politicians. The first few levels taking place in said sewers, before you even meet your first terrorist, you fight off giant rats and something called sludge minions, which for all intents and purposes are just weird looking mutants of some kind. When you finally get to the tower, you have to traverse through it going higher and higher and unlock the elevator on each floor by killing a certain number of bodies. Operation Body Count used an interesting mechanic for lives where instead of them, you were given a small squad of soldiers to help you, and whenever one died, you kept on playing as another. You can also give them orders in a limited manner, so they could be told to either follow you or roam freely around the level killing bodies. Additionally, many of the environments could be destroyed, and with use of explosives, even most walls, which not only is a fun gameplay mechanic, but also makes repeated playthroughs more varied, even if just by a little. As in most shooters, there's quite a few weapons to choose from, and shotgun, Uzi, flamethrower and grenade launcher are the most prominent of them all. By 1994 there were arguably better looking, sounding and playing shooters on PC, so Operation Body Count had a difficult start. And given that its underlying technology seemed ancient compared to that of Doom, it was near instantaneously forgotten. I'm Batman! Yes Bruce, exactly how Mr. Freeze from a movie about it. He too was forgotten. Paganitzu is a shareware puzzle game split into 3 episodes, first of which was available for free, as was most often the case with Apogee's shareware titles. Each episode has 20 levels, and in each stage you'll need to collect all the keys or gems depending on how far you are in the game, and then find a way to get out to the exit unscathed. The levels are filled with boulders, various environmental dangers and deadly creatures, likes of snakes, spiders and lizards among others. You know, things you don't want to find in your backyard. And you have to puzzle your way through those stages Boulder Dash style, because it is very similar to that all-time classic. So it's possible to lock yourself out of the exit, to die by dropping a boulder on yourself, or even use those boulders to crush the enemies. Fun. Also, same as in original, touching an enemy kills you instantly, so they have to be either avoided or disposed of. Your call. Although, if possible, I'd always suggest doing the latter, as not only it's safer, but also produces more items for you to pick up. Graphics and sounds are not great, but they're not hideous either. Just your standard basic EGA and PC speaker fare. Not great by 1991 standards, but at least the hardware requirements were very modest and most PC owners could play Paganitzu comfortably. So there's that. To summarize, if you like the original Boulder Dash, then Paganitzu is definitely a game for you. If you didn't, then it's not gonna blow you away into changing your mind about it. Passengers on the Wind is an interactive novel kind of an adventure, meaning that it's more of an interactive book where you get to make choices from time to time, rather than actively control characters' movements all throughout. It's based on a French comic strip of the same name and takes place on the eve of the French Revolution in the district of the so-called Triangular Commerce, named so because of the slave trafficking center that's there and coordinated human trade between Britain, America and Africa. Awful habit, but the times were as they were and we can't change them anymore. At least I hope we learned something from them. You're controlling 2 characters. No, scratch that. It's too far-fetched. You're following 2 characters. Hall, British sailor who flees France after being unjustly accused of murder he did not commit, and Isa, female adventurer with a troubled past and a secret to her identity. Passengers of the Wind, despite being a glorified book, is not terribly linear, and only ever converges to a steady point after a while. On the way to it, it gives you quite a lot of freedom with your choices for either Hall or Isa, often leading to different interesting outcomes. Interactivity or lack thereof aside, if you enjoy good and captivating stories, then there is a lot to like in the game and you will enjoy it thoroughly beginning to the end. Pea Shootin Pete is an extended re-release of Speedwad Really, and it's conceptually based on incredibly fun and popular arcade classic Pong, also known as Buster Bros, with a difference of Pea Shootin Pete being a single-player game only. If you never played Pong, let me explain. The idea is that simple. You're the dude that's at the bottom of the screen, running left and right, and shooting peas from his blowpipe at the balloons bouncing all over. When a balloon is popped, it splits into two smaller ones that need to be popped too, and it carries on until the balloons are so small that they don't pop anymore and just disappear when hit. When the screen is cleared of all balloons, you move to the next stage. And when balloon hits you, and it's a tough game so it will at some point whether you want to or not, you obviously lose a life. Fortunately, there's quite a few different power-ups that you can collect while playing, and they will be more than helpful. They can be stuff like extra life, screen freeze, shield, balloon slowdown, or a better shot to name a few. I feel that even though Pea Shootin Pete does not feature destructible walls and floors same way Pong did, it's still a way more demanding game. Which is odd as original was created to literally eat away coins from players. The reason may be that the balloons feel less fluid and move quicker here. And while it feels a bit simpler than the original, it's only superficial as it's not the same game, only one based off it. Graphics are perhaps not great, often using psychedelic backgrounds that either feature weird twirls or quickly cycling colors, but if you're not sensitive to such effects, they do their work and are not hideous. Gameplay is top-notch though, perhaps not as addictive as arcade original, but very fun and long-lasting, provided you don't mind that high difficulty level that is. Overall, if you like arcade games and were a fan of Pong, there's a lot to love here. If it's first time you're seeing the concept, however, I'd risk saying that it's best to start with the original. Pirate Fry and Volcano Island is a freeware point-and-click adventure game made with the Adventure Game Studio, a piece of software that allowed nearly anyone to make adventure games. And they did. And so did Pirate Fry's developer. I mean, just look at the obvious Microsoft Paint graphics in this one. They're terrible, awful, and so bad that they actually begin to look enchantingly great. You know, ironically good. Like so bad that they're art. Like South Park. So, you're Fry, a pirate. But due to some changes in the pirating laws or something of the likes, you have to get a license to carry on being a swashbuckler. To be able to get one, you have to solve a logic test and then pass 3 trials, kinda like Guybrush Threepwood in Secret of the Monkey Island. Obviously nowhere near quality-wise, but thematically similar. The trials require you to kill something or someone, steal something, and redeem yourself by doing something good. So to do something terrible, something bad, and then something good to counter the earlier bads. Other than that, it's a standard point-and-click adventure and it's actually pretty fun, even if rather simplistic in its puzzles. The humor is quite prominent all throughout its hour or so playtime, so if you can overlook the presentation, it's not a bad title for a short chuckle when you have a little free time. It's not gonna be a game you'll remember forever, but that hour or two you spend completing it won't feel wasted either. Pizza Tycoon is a humorous business simulation and management game made by Software 2000, a German-based developer. You know, this began as a running joke some videos ago, I don't know, a year or so back perhaps. I said that German developers made the best management games in the 90s. But as we went more and more in depth with them throughout the Amiga Gaming History series and then those two, it became clear that if it was anything, it definitely was not a joke, but a rock-solid fact. So, rocked. Rock-solid fact. Rocked. Write that down, it's a good one. Anyway, Pizza Tycoon is another incredible proof of that, and also one of my absolute favorites at the time. On the surface, you're a restaurant, an in-time chain of restaurants owner, and a respectable citizen and business owner rolled into one, in a city either in Europe or USA. And you're responsible for everything from renting or buying a building for your pizzeria, through getting all the equipment and furniture, purchasing ingredients, to hiring staff and even designing your own pizzas, preferably based on the tastes and needs of local neighborhood's residents. If that wasn't enough, you have to advertise your business, can take part in pizza competitions, or even deal with shady types or sabotage your competition by peaceful or brutal means. Because of course your pizza is the best, regardless if it tastes the best, and if anyone says otherwise, the unforeseen things may happen to their establishments. You've no way of telling what they'll be, but you feel that something unspeakable, something terrible might. And we wouldn't want that now, would we? Pizza Tycoon is a true gem which I love to bits, and real fun title to play either in a single or multiplayer. And since Amiga version never got the English release, this PC outing is easily the best one and deserved way more recognition internationally than it ever got. Pocket Rockets is an unusual racing game that sadly, at least in my eyes, is not great. Instead of regular racing, facing the opponents on track and fighting for the spots, you're drag racing and running circuits. And you do it all alone. There's no opponents, none there you could compete against other than the score table. or timetable I should say really, boring. So Pocket Rocket's only appeal really is competing against your real-life friends in hot seat, alternating to see which one of you will come on top. And given how many great games we had on the system, Pocket Rockets had an uphill start and never really got any further than those first few steps upwards. Drag races are viewed from a side perspective and are all about correct gear switching and top speed, while circuits are all that too, but are viewed from behind the bike. Did I mention that I don't like Pocket Rockets yet? I don't. It's lacking, uninspired, and most importantly and worst of all, not fun. It does let you pick between 4 bikes of Suzuki Katana, Kawasaki Ninja, Yamaha FZR and Honda Hurricane, so at least there's that I suppose. Prohibition on PC sucks. Well, it sucked in real life too, not only cause it limited freedom and access to beverages adults should have access to, if they please that is, but also because it created a grey area, where many would turn to their own hidden home brewing and criminal rates would skyrocket as well. Our today's Prohibition sucks because of 2 things. First of all, presentation. The game looks god-awful in its CGA design using a mind-blowing 4 colors. And it's not even well-fitting 4 colors, but one of the few terrible palettes that CGA offered. It's disappointing to say the least. Then there's the PC speaker sounds, which I wouldn't usually mind as much being used to them and all, but together with the graphics they make the game overall feel unimpressive. Sadly, that's not all yet. The gameplay in my eyes is entirely 8-bit in its design, and no wonder as Prohibition came out on 8-bit micros of the time too. It's beyond simple. It's a shooting gallery type of a game with a limited set of enemies, no extra weapons or power-ups, and no novelties of any kind. You're facing a scrollable row of buildings and you shoot gangsters that pop up in various spots on the screen. You get few seconds head start per gangster until he shoots at you. You can theoretically hide until the timer restarts, but it can't be done all the time. After each, as you can see, simple stage, there's a bonus one where you shoot at gangsters in the room and not outside. There you can't hide anymore and the timer is even more restricted. As you progress through the game, it becomes faster and faster and enemies are more difficult to find and hit. So, as you see, the gameplay design is beyond basic, which would be okay on a simpler system, but by 1987 we had games like Defender of the Crown on PC, which compared to this is like 600 pages long book compared to a leaflet written in a broken English. Similar to what you hear coming from me in my videos. Pulsoid is an Arkanoid-like game with a touch of Snake for good measure. For the most part, it plays like an Arkanoid with destructible colorful bricks at the top of the screen and paddle you control at the bottom. But if I want to be frank, the whole Snake-like addition to the gameplay is completely unnecessary. But whatever, it is what it is. The snakes replaces balls that you usually see in games in the genre, and they can grow larger in size or shrink by breaking blocks with plus and minus signs on them respectively. Other than that, everything else seems to be identical to any other Arkanoid clone out there. So there are different blocks, and when broken can drop both power-up and power-downs of a typical for the genre kinds. There are enemies showing up from time to time and serving no real purpose other than just to misdirect the snake and add to the randomness of gameplay. In fact, Pulsoid even offers a special optional Arkanoid mode that replaces the snakes with traditional balls. And guess what? It plays the same, only proving that the snakes were just a gimmick. I'm not judging, you do what you can to sell your game, it's just an observation. Come to think of it, I believe Pulsoid was a freeware, so disregard that mention of sales. It featured 32 built-in levels, option to download level files and even a level editor, which prolonged its stay and playability considerably and once again proved that snakes were not necessary. And the fact that you could enjoy it with a friend in a simultaneous multiplayer made this already pretty fun title even better. Kinda like ketchup makes the fries. You don't really need it, but it fits perfectly. Also, and I'm gonna be a bit controversial here, I've heard many times about fries with mayo and disregarded it as a missed combo for a long while, until one of those adventurous afternoons I decided to give it a go, and oh my days, it shouldn't work, but it does so well. I'd risk saying that better than ketchup. Peaceful kingdom of Duckland was invaded by the army of monsters, who kidnapped and hold your friends hostage. Believe it or not, but all that happened when you were dozing off. And that's what happens when the hero is overworked from all the world and universe saving. You're forgiven though because of the aforementioned heroics, and also cause you will save them in the end. We've used to it by now and I know that you will. So, you must traverse through 5 islands in the Duckland archipelago, defeating the monsters and searching for your friends. Punky Duck is a third-person 3D shooter with some very basic adventuring elements. Namely, on each of the islands that you fight the monsters on, you also have to find the plan for the device required to move to the next, and then find all the necessary components to build that apparatus to progress. Before you're able to leave though, you have to defeat the end level, or end island to be precise, bosses. As you go about your quest, you will collect new weapons, ammunition for them, invincibility, jetpacks, extra lives and dollars. There's 5 islands in total, each is differently themed, and when you get to the last, you'll be able to finally save your friends. Now, since you collect money, each island has a shop somewhere, where you can spend it in exchange for items, and it's good to memorize where these shops are. I always thought that Punky Duck's engine looked eerily similar to the one used in Magic Carpet. It's obviously not the same, but they look alike. Though at closer inspection it appears that the one in Magic Carpet might have been more advanced, even if it came few years earlier. Overall, Punky Duck is a funky quack and an excellent simple shooter. If you like those, don't skip it. Every time I finish one of those videos I feel like the games were a good mix. But do you? Did you know of any? Perhaps they look like something you'd like to try? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. If you didn't, well then there's thumbs down there too. But I suppose you wouldn't have persevered up to this point if you really didn't. Around 60% of you are not subscribed, and there's currently no way of knowing if YouTube will decide to recommend you the next episode or not, other than subscribing and hitting that bell, that is. And when you hit that bell, whenever the new video is out, YouTube will actually send you a small and friendly notification about it, so you wouldn't miss it. If you'd like to support the channel, Patreon and YouTube memberships are a great way of doing so. They will help me release better content, and also they get first dibs on all new videos before they're publicly accessible on YouTube. If you can't or don't want to do that though, likes and subscribes are great too. I would like to take a moment here and thank all the YouTube creators from whose videos short bits were taken to serve as a background to my commentary. They're amazing and stars among the retro community. You will find names of their channels at the top of the screen when their footage is running, and also in the video description below. For me though, this is all, so have a good one and I'll see you next time. Peace.